Disney corporate called, and they need you to find the differences between this picture and this picture. They're the same picture. This video is brought to you by Factor. Go to factormeals.com/Murrell50off for a special offer, and stay tuned after the video for more details. Hello everybody, I'm Dan Murrell here with my review of Moana, the latest live-action remake from Disney, which is in theaters now. The first Moana was released a little less than 10 years ago, and the sequel was in theaters less than 2 years ago, so I guess we can look forward to a live-action Zootopia in the near future. I could give you a brief summary of the story, but that would be completely pointless because it's Moana. Not like Moana, not a take on Moana. This is 2016's Moana, word for word, scene for scene, often shot for shot. There's no innovation, not really even any adaptation. This is just the animated film shot in live action. It's similar to the remake of How to Train Your Dragon, but even that film, I think, took the original, simpler for its time animation and made it more cinematic, which is why I enjoyed that film a lot more. If anything, I think this remake is a downgrade in cinematic quality. I did something the night before watching this movie, which was both helpful for this review and might have been a mistake. I rewatched the original Moana because I wanted to be able to identify any differences in the new one. Moana is a really good movie, and it still holds up because it's not that old. I have shirts that are older than the original Moana. Now, some might say that this movie should be judged on its own terms, not solely in comparison to the original, but Disney has taken no steps to allow anyone to judge the film that way. It is a complete recreation of the first Moana, so it leaves no air to be compared to anything else. I guess this movie's best function would be for an audience that has never seen 2016's Moana, but with the advent of streaming, it's never really been locked away in the Disney vault, and it remains one of the most popular movies on any streaming service to this day. So as a remake, let's judge Moana on its strengths and weaknesses, and we will start with the performances. Catherine Logaia takes over the role of Moana from Ali Carvalho, who voiced her in the animated films, and there's nothing wrong with her performance. Her acting is pretty solid. She has a good screen presence and a strong voice, although I did detect some auto-tune from time to time, which is weird because it really didn't seem like she needed it. She's a very talented young actress, but because this film so exactly copies the original, I never really felt like I was watching Moana on screen. I felt like I was watching the most talented student at a performing arts high school taking on the lead role in a stage rendition of Moana. That, by the way, is an insult to this film's lack of creativity, not Logaia's performance. Maui, the silver-tongued demigod, is played in live action by his voice actor, Dwayne Johnson. Much has already been said about his ridiculous wig and muscled bodysuit, so I won't say any more, other than it looks like a Halloween costume and not a particularly great one. But for a role that Johnson injected with so much life in animation, I found his performance in live action oddly flat. It felt to me like he was going through the motions of being Maui instead of putting his own charisma back into the role, which is odd considering that this is his project. He produced the movie, and it's very meaningful to him as it's rooted in his own Polynesian background. I think this movie's only shot at carving its own niche would have been for Johnson to also step aside and allow another actor to shine as Maui, but somehow I doubt that this movie would exist if Dwayne Johnson wasn't co-starring in it. I did like Rena Owen as Moana's grandmother, and Jermaine Clement also returns to voice Tamatoa, the treasure-loving crab. He's great, once again, though I think they probably could have just reused his old voice tracks from 2016. And no one would have been the wiser. So on a performance level, I'd say that this Moana is at best a wash compared to the original, but honestly, a bit of a downgrade. So what about the look of the film? Unlike every other Disney classic that's gotten the live action treatment, Moana was not a 2D animated film. The 2016 movie was made with state-of-the-art computer animation technology, and it still holds up. It's vibrant and beautiful, and all the live-action version does is directly copy that look, but often toned down for live action. Maui's signature song, You're Welcome, for example, which in the original jumps between all different types of animation, now just features Dwayne Johnson singing in front of a green screen, with that same animation composited behind him. Shiny is pretty much a copy of the original sequence, but a little dirtier and dingier because because Tamatoa is now a real crab who lives in a dark cave. And instead of Moana singing How Far I'll Go in a vibrantly animated ocean environment, live-action Moana sings it in front of an obviously digital background, complete with harsh edge light to make sure that her hair is easy to blend with her environment. And overall, there is still a lot of animation in this movie. Moana's animal sidekicks, Pua and Heihei, are fully animated, though Heihei looks borderline monstrous when rendered as an actual rooster. The ocean gods, Te Kā and Te Fiti, are fully animated and designed exactly the same as they were in animation. And following the opening act on Moana's home island of Motunui, which features some beautiful practical production design, everything shot on the boat looks like it's against a digital background. This is not a live-action reimagining, this is a live-action rendering that almost exactly matches what you've already seen. And because live-action doesn't allow for as many flights of fancy and visual flair as animation does, I think the look of the film is a push at best in some areas and a marked downgrade in other areas. Sometimes the animated format, without its tether to the real world, is just a better way to stage something, and when you ground it to real life, it loses some of the magic. I honestly don't know what Disney was going for here. I think Moana could have been remade as a straight adventure film, closer to what they did with Mulan, where you take the storyline, jettison the songs, and tell the story of Moana and Maui in a more dramatic way. But Disney saw what happened with Mulan amid all the cries of where are the songs and where's Mushu, and obviously they decided they were not going to do that again. But how is it any better to take a film that's less than 10 years old and good and do a worse version in live action? If I had kids who asked if we could go see Moana, I would be well within my rights to say, we have Moana at home, and be 100% accurate. You don't just have a version of Moana at home, you have this version of Moana at home, but as good or better in almost every way. Now, that's not to say that the film has no value. A lot of people obviously worked very hard on it, especially the art department who built Moana's village. I love that this film is a representation of Polynesian culture in live action, providing opportunities for a lot of Polynesian actors. And Catherine Logaya is a great discovery who will hopefully get even better opportunities in more original projects. All of those are good things. It would just be better if what worked in the movie was in service of anything other than an empty recreation of a movie that didn't need a remake. Anytime I say a movie is unnecessary, people often respond, well, is any movie really necessary? But 2026's Moana is a different kind of unnecessary. What charm it does have comes from the original material, and the shot-for-shot nature of the final product makes it kind of mystifying that this movie even exists at this moment in time. If all copies of the 2016 movie had been destroyed in a fire or a server crash or something, yeah, sure. But dollar signs seem to have been the only motivating factor for Disney here, and I'll be curious to see how that works out for them. Looking at past Disney remakes, even the ones that were largely copied from the original film, they all offered something new. Cinderella expanded and enhanced the story, as did The Jungle Book. Aladdin brought us Will Smith. The Lion King provided photorealism, if nothing else. Dumbo and Mulan reimagined the entire story. Beauty and the Beast production designed the hell out of that castle. Even Snow White mixed the story up a little bit and showed us a world where Snow White's 7 dwarfs were nightmarish hell creatures. Not all of those new takes worked. Honestly, I think very few of them worked, but they did bring something to the table. All Moana brings us is Disney saying, hey, I know you like this, so here's the exact same thing so you can pay us twice. You're welcome. Rating this movie is kind of tough because the original Moana is a good movie, and a lot of that good is transfused to this movie by default. But because Disney took absolutely no steps to make this film distinct from the original in any way, then I am also not going to judge it distinct from the original. If what you want is just to see Moana with people instead of animated characters, that's exactly what you're getting. You'll probably be satisfied. But if you're looking for anything different or new or even at times equal, then I think you're going to be disappointed. This is a lesser version of Moana, and because of its rigid determination to simply recreate instead of reimagine the original, I was also pretty disinterested and sometimes even bored watching it. It would be like making a shot-for-shot animated version of Jaws, but not changing anything. Sure, the source material's great, but why did you make this one? I'll just watch the one I already like. So on my personal scale, I'm rating Moana not a fan, with the caveat that if you haven't ever seen Moana, you might like it more, and kids will probably enjoy it because, well, it's Moana. So those are my thoughts on Moana. Before we go, I want to thank the sponsor for this review, Factor. I'll bet a lot of you had a great July 4th barbecue. I know I sure did. But cooking a big meal like that at home isn't something you want to do every day. Sometimes you just want to take it easy, enjoy the summer, and leave the meal prep to somebody else. That's where Factor comes in, delivering fresh, chef-crafted meals right to your door. Factor's weekly menu features over 100 rotating meals with flavors from around the world that are also built around your goals, whether you're trying to lose weight, eat more protein, support a GLP-1, and more. There's even a Muscle Pro collection to help you recover from working out. Next week's menu includes great options like scampi-style shrimp and salmon. For you seafood lovers out there, count me in. And no matter what the option is, I can tell you I have never had a bad meal brought to me by Factor. And each meal is ready to eat in just 2 minutes. Factor does the prepping, the cooking, and sends it right to your door. I love the convenience of Factor, and I think that you will too. Head to factormeals.com/Murrell50off and use the code Murrell50off to get 50% off and free daily greens per box with a new subscription only while supplies last if you sign up before September 27th. You can see their website for more details. That's factormeals.com/Murrell50off with the code Murrell50off. Thanks to Factor for sponsoring this review, and thank you for watching. Let me know what you thought of this new version of Moana down in the comments below. Until next time, stay safe, and I'll see you then. Bye.